The novel Bridge to Terabithia is written for kids, but for one American soldier in the middle of a grueling year-long deployment in Afghanistan, it became a lifeline. Lee Woodruff is with us. Lee, good morning.
Good morning, Nora. A used paperback novel sent to Corporal Trent Reedy in Afghanistan would change not only the course of his life, but also that of an author and a young Afghan girl. Trent Reedy recalls the day in 2004 when he got the call his Army National Guard unit was going to Afghanistan.
My squad leader gave the first word, the code word, stampede. It was a word that we only used when we were activating.
A high school English teacher who had rarely set foot outside Iowa, Reedy soon found himself in a war zone, half a world away.
I was angry about the September 11th attacks, and I made the terrible mistake of blaming all of the Afghan people.
Reedy was stationed in the town of Farah, near the Iranian border. The 50 men in his unit crowded into this mud and brick compound, under constant threat from the Taliban.
There was a very real possibility that I would never leave that place, that I would never make it home.
In the midst of his despair, Reedy received something unexpected. A discount paperback copy of Bridge to Terabithia from his wife. The children's classic about two friends who invent a magical world deep in the woods was turned into a movie in 2007.
Isn't this cool? We can do anything here.
I learned from Bridge to Terabithia in that war zone that art and music and books aren't extras, they're essential.
Reedy devoured the book and then poured his heart out in a letter to the author, Catherine Patterson.
Even while I drove through a strange foreign city with body armor and a fully loaded M16 assault rifle, all I could think about was the beauty and richness of your novel. Thank you, Miss Patterson, for bringing such joy to this lonely teacher-made soldier in this long tour in this bleak desert country.
It's a pretty profound moment, I imagine, to get a letter like that.
Yes, it is.
Did you ever expect it to be so beautiful? And
No. And I didn't expect it to be life-changing for either one of us.
Patterson, a pacifist who opposed the war in Afghanistan, felt compelled to write the soldier back.
It is every writer's deepest desire to have readers who understand what is in her heart. And sometimes, miraculously, it happens. And even more miraculously, the reader shares his heart as well. Thank you.
Their correspondence would last the rest of Reedy's deployment. Why such an interest in Trent?
You know, he was in Afghanistan, for heaven's sakes. He needed mail, he needed encouragement.
As the two grew closer, Reedy's views of his mission also changed. No longer did he see Afghans as the enemy. They, too, had been victimized by the Taliban, and their children, after decades of war, were left with almost nothing. One little girl in particular touched your heart.
Right, when we encountered a young girl who had suffered from birth from cleft lip, and her teeth were extraordinarily crooked so that they stuck out straight forward. And so my fellow soldiers and I pooled together our money to pay for civilian transportation to get this girl to our base.
An army surgeon repaired her disfigured face, and in a country where girls often got the short end of the stick, she at least could now live a life free of stigma. It was also a turning point for Reedy.
The last time I saw this girl named Zuleika, she was on the back of our truck riding off of our base. And I told her, I promise I will find a way to tell them your story.
To keep that promise, he turned to his friend Catherine Patterson. After his deployment, he enrolled at the writing program at the Vermont College of Fine Arts, where she was a trustee.
I was sneakily suspicious that this man could write. And I said, well, she can't tell her own story now. Someday we hope she can tell her own story. But for now, someone else is going to have to do it for her.
With Patterson's encouragement, Reedy started writing about a young Afghan girl named Zuleika, who has a cleft lip but gets help from American soldiers. That story eventually became his first novel, Words in the Dust. Trent, what would you like people to come away with after they read your book?
I would like them to have an Afghan friend, right? And to understand that The people in Afghanistan want the chance to, to chase their dreams and to aspire toward more.
And a portion of the proceeds from Reedy's novel benefited charity that helps Afghan women and girls. And someday, Reedy says he will return to Afghanistan, find the real Zuleika, and thank her for changing his life. And his next book, which we're all excited about, will be released next month. So, veteran turned author.
Talk about being forever changed, and it just shows you the power of a book.
Power of a book. In the desert, he talked about that. It was an awful day. He was feeling despair. This entire truck of meat had arrived, and they were all going to have steaks. And the driver had forgotten to turn on the refrigeration unit. And then he received the book.
I now want Trent Reedy's book.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful book, and everyone should read it.
And what he has done for Zuleika, the young girl.
Yeah.
Changed
I
her
hope he
life
finds
forever.
her someday.
Lee, thank you.
Thank you.